And of course, we don't need the key here because this is a numbered array. Okay. So next, let's create another variable called split rule with options. And I'll explain what that means in a moment. And we're going to do explode. And the delimiter is going to be semicolon. And so we're going to do split rule. Okay. So basically what's happening here is that for each of these, if it's an array element, right, and we're looping over required and email, it wouldn't matter. But when we come to password here, we're looping over required, and when we come to min3, we want to get the min, which is the rule name, and then this is the option for the rule, right? Since we need to know what option to deal with, right? That won't apply for all of these. So if it doesn't, it's just going to give us an array with one element which is required, and the next one array with one element, right? So we're not going to use the second element if we don't expect to. Okay, so next let's create a switch statement here. Basically we're going to do split rule with options, and the first item in that array is the value of the rule name. Okay, so it's the rule name that we have split rule with options. So the element in index 1 is the option if it exists. If there is no option, then we just don't expect it. All right, so let's carry on. And so the first case we want to check is required. Okay, so let's duplicate that many times because we're going to have to check for actually 4 cases. That is required, email, and then min, and then max. So required, email, min, and then max. Okay, so let's remove this default here. Right, so let's deal with the required part here. So what we want to do is we want to do if not is set, and basically what we want to check is split rule. Actually not split rule, values, since we passed in the values up here. So we have the key for the form input names here, and the key is form key. So if values form key is not set or empty, so values form key, okay, or string length of values form key is equal to 0. Okay, so if any of those conditions is true, we're going to set the errors for that property there. Okay, so errors, and then we're going to say form key. Since we initialize it to an empty array here, now we're just gonna do this bracket here. So basically that means just append one element to that array, which is a string. In this case, we're going to say form key, we're gonna do dot is required. Okay, so in this case, you're gonna say name is required, email is required, or password is required if any of them fail. Okay, so we've dealt with that. Next, let's do for email. And how you do for email is we say if filter var, and then we want to check, or let's do if not. Basically if that fails, so we want to filter var is a way of checking if something is an email type. So you're gonna have to pass in 2 arguments, of course. So let's pass in the values. Let's do values, and then form key. Basically that will just get from the values post data here using the form key here. Okay, that will give us the value for this email, of course, if it's an email, that is. If not, a second argument there is filter validate email. Okay, if that doesn't pass, then we say errors, and then form key, and then we append an element to that. So it's equal to, let's do form key must be an email format, must be in an email format. I think that's a bit more appropriate.